Ora si
and
registrerà la conferenza.
and we will effectively see the kind of instruments that you are asked to complete and at least to know while you are doing research or analyzing this material. Another very tips before starting our section is this. I kindly invite you to raise your hand or to stop me whenever you have questions or when you or in case you cannot properly understand the sense of the terms and conditions and whatever I'm saying, just because this section is meant for you to be a support for your activity and not just to be a front lesson, just saying something that you want to use or you are not interested in. So just to be clear about what we are going to do today, I will share my screen with a very brief table of content about our discussion today. So what we are going to, do you prefer this presentation mode probably? What we are going to talk about today. Firstly, I would like to approach the exchanges of material within Intact, as said before, in a practical way, and having in consideration the fact that exchanges are not just permanent moving, but also sharing of material. This means that you could take the material and in the same time provide something, the so-called benefit sharing relationship. This implies, of course, that we will have today an open dialogue, and for this reason, I would like to have information about you on some aspects. For example, what kind of material you are intended to share, where you are intended to conduct research or investigation, if you are intended to involve other researchers, for example, just the researchers of your institution or the local researchers of the institution where you are seconded. So please let me know about the activity that you are intended to do, because this is the background for the experts of the legal and ethical experts of Intact to provide you the useful instruments that you need while you exchange material. Then we will, as we are in a collaborative setting, of course, we are equipped with simplified procedures to exchange material, and for this reason, we are going to simplify procedures, not just giving you very bureaucratic and complex tables or templates, but very simple forms to be completed while you are exchanging material. And of course, this will help us to build up a collaborative agreement among our institutions and within the consortium. Then I will give you some tips to be aware about your roles, responsibilities, and liabilities during this sharing of materials, but also there will be some warnings because of course you are all researchers with skills in your field of research, but probably you will lack certain legal and administrative aspects concerning the moving of this material. So please pay attention to the aspects that I'm going to illustrate and indicate to you. So we will basically build our section today on these four issues. Basically, the first third are questions. What to know, what we have to know before engaging in a sorry, I know now that the presentation is not moving. So for this reason, I will share again the screen in this presentation, not in the presentation mode, but rather in this edit version. Please let me know if now it's moving. We are here. These were what. Thank you. This was just the first bullet point that I have indicated. If you have missed something, please raise your hand or tell me about what you have missed. In any case, this is our roadmap for today. As I said before, we will tackle these four issues. The first three issues are about questions. What to know before engaging in exchanges material. Actually, we need to know something in advance before accessing biological material, or before the transfers of this material. So it is important to have some basic notions and of course some permits for moving this material. And in the context that I'm going to explain today, what we have to know in advance is basically the prior informed consent of the institutions or the administrative authorities or the competent authorities to have access to this material. To be very clear, as researchers, you are asked to to be compliant with certain international conventions that we have already talked about. But besides this, you are asked to act respecting the principle of integrity, research integrity. This means that you cannot go in a country and simply taking the biological material without asking nothing, or just simply taking the material and going back to your country and analyze this. This is not possible because of two aspects. Essentially, the first one is that we are in a collaborative research consortium, and for this we are expected to be fair and to act fairly, not to have certain attitudes or behaviors that run counter to fairly relationships with other partners. And the other reasons is that not being compliant with these rules um, triggers breach in law and claims. For this reason, your institutions could be bring before a judicial authority for breaching certain national rules and administrative regulations. So please, taking this in mind, beware of the following templates, formats, and aspects that I will explain to you. The second question is about what to exchange. Actually, I'm a jurist and I do not have the extensive knowledge as you have about the material that you are intended to exchange. This is important because depending on what you are going to exchange, we will provide you different legal instruments. Just to give you an example, if you are going to analyze the genome of a truffle, you will certainly need a certain set of instruments that are the informed consent of the authority to which ask for access. But in this case, you have to be aware that that authority has the power to grant access. Following this prior informed consent, you will subscript and actually complete in very simple terms mutually agreed terms. There is to say a contract in which you as a user and the provider of the research establish, agree about the conditions and benefit sharing linked to the use or utilization of that research. It is actually I will show you these forms and the parts that you will ask to complete. How to? How to is our third questions concerning the situations in which you will be according to your need about the moving of the biological material. Actually, when you are seconded in during the intact project, you probably will ask yourself and the institutions how to access or simply have an accession in the case of biobanks or banks of germplasm about the genetic resources. But it is necessary that you ask yourself before going abroad or before being seconded, because of the fact that sometimes it will be too late to solve that situation in which you will be, to provide you with the necessary permits that you are asked to have to move that research. For this reason, we will tackle and we will talk about the useful tools that you are asked to use. What would you need? Before having access, it is necessary that you know in advance who is responsible, as I said before, for granting access. Please take particular attention to these aspects. There is to say the granting of access, because it depends on the kind of activities that you are going to realize, but it also depends on the property and rights of the authority individual that is the right holder on the biological material. Actually, you will probably realize in situ or ex situ research. That is to say, in situ, when you realize research activities in the place where the truffle is situated, and this is basically field work. But probably you will realize also research activity using collection, and in that case research is conducted ex situ. That is to say, the truffle is located in a place different from that in which it is grown. Depending on these two aspects, that is to say, in situ or ex situ, you will surely, not probably, surely, ask the access to different right holders. In the first case, in the case of in situ, you will probably ask the national authority, or simply the right holder of the field in which you are picking truffle. In the second case, there is to say ex situ research, you will ask access to the institutions that has control on over the collection. So this point of granting access is very important. Another aspect that you will be aware about is whether the institution is empowered to represent the provider state authority. Actually, and this is the case, when we are engaged in collaborative research, the power of the institution to represent and to grant authority is a very simple aspect. But even in this case, it is important that you are absolutely sure of the powers of the institutions that is giving the possibility to you to access the material. Another important aspect is the relationship between the researcher and the affiliated institutions. This is important for the reason that you will be asked to work on this research with the host researchers, or the of the institutions in which you are seconded. It is important that you clarify who will conduct research and who will responsible for activities and basically the utilization of that research. This also in order to establish in a subsequent material transfer agreements or mutually agreed terms the liabilities among you, your institution, and the host researchers or host institutions, seconding institutions with which you are doing your investigation. Another aspect is that you should be aware about the some permits that are mandatory for certain types of biological material. And again, I will ask you, even in an open dialogue today or later, while we will prepare the instruments for you, to indicate us the kind of material that you are going to exchange. This is very important because of the fact that depending on the kind of material that you are going to exchange, probably you will ask and the provider or the provider will be asked to give you certain permits. What kind of permits? Of course, phytosanitary requirements, phytosanitary permits concerning certain requirements, or permits concerning the trade of that material, or permits just concerning the research. But in this sense, um, we have simplified measures because, as I said before, we are in a collaborative research setting. So we will simplify basically the procedures for you to move material. Or you will be probably asked to have permits for environmental protection, whether certain material are of risk of pests or other particular characteristics that could effectively negatively affect the environment of the place in which you are moving resources. It is also important that you know in advance where you are going to use genetic resources or the material. This basically because of the fact that generally providers are more likely to give you access to their material when research is conducted in place. There's to say, in the settings in which the truffle is grown or the material is provided. But in this case, you probably will need to move the material to your facilities or your institution facilities to conduct a certain analysis. So it is important that you have an idea where to set your research. Just to give you other tips about what you will know before engaging in this moving of materials. It is, as said, important to know who is involved in the research activity. In cases in which not just you or your institution are involved, but also local researchers, this is an aspect that will be necessary to introduce in the benefit sharing clauses of a material transfer agreement or a mutually agreed terms. Why this? Because as I said before, we are not simply moving biological material in a straight way from a place to another, but we are not simply doing that, but we are exchanging material. This implies that we will have access, but in the same time we are asked to provide the providers, sorry for the same words, of certain benefits, and this will be the case of sharing technologies or sharing research activities with them. It is also important to establish in advance whether you are going to deposit the material you are accessing into collections, and it probably will occur at the beginning of the research or later in the utilization. In both cases, I kindly invite you to plan this activity because it implies certain exchanges of information. And for researchers that are located and in European countries, there is to say, using legal terms, are considered users according to the European legislation. This would imply providing information and being compliant with the European regulation about the Nagoya Protocol. So please consider these aspects. And the last point in this slide, and sorry, I have heard some rumors. Okay, I will continue later. We will see if there are any questions. In the last point of this slide, I provide you with a link. This link is to the CBD, actually a subsection of the CBD official site. In this link and in this online page, you will have the specificities about the country that are party to the Convention on Biological Diversity and the Nagoya Protocol. Why this link is important, and what is the reason why I'm providing you with this link? Basically, because in this site you will have all countries and actually even the countries involved in our project that are communicating to the international community. There is to say the CBD and the Nagoya Protocol, the other Nagoya Protocol parties, how they are going to manage with the aspect of access and benefit sharing. So this link provides you with very useful information about the authority who is able to give you access, or the national focal points, that is to say, the national authority that is responsible for the aspects concerning genetic resources, for example, in Morocco. And you will have in this site other important information concerning legislative or administrative on policy measures, ABS, access and benefit sharing procedures, and you will have information about national model contractual clauses, if, of course, if the country that you are checking about is equipped with these clauses. Otherwise, and in this case, in this project, in the Intact project, we are building up certain templates that will useful for you for during the sharing of this material. So before I move to these other aspects, is there any question, or is it something not clear, in the sense that there are something that you don't know or that you are going to ask me, please please give me some inputs if the aspects that I have analyzed are not clear. Is there any question? Okay, just to break the ice and just to open the dialogue, is there something, is there someone that could give me an idea about the material that you are going to exchange? Do you have any idea before being seconded or before going abroad about the genetic resources, or just the truffle itself, not just its composition?
Yes, Sabrina.
Yes.
I think Claudia and Beatrice, I don't know, Claudia is here. I think yes. When
Yes, I am.
they travel in Morocco, we have agreed to make a study of tuber estivum. So we need to take a sample from of truffle from Morocco, and in the next secondments they will go to so we need to prepare this
Okay,
for this.
thank you.
Okay.
Thank you, Andrea. This is a very excellent insight for me to give you a very practical example. If I have understood correctly, the biological material that you have said, actually, I cannot, sorry, I'm a jurist, I cannot remember the name, but it is just the name of the specimen, not just the genetic material. Is it correct? The truffle itself, I mean.
The,
Yes,
is
yes, specimen of
Okay.
the
truffles. Yes.
fungus. Yes.
Okay, exactly. Thank you. Sorry for this missing information from my side. And if you are going uh, probably analyze, as I understand properly, and are you going to have analysis to investigate about the genetic, or just to the morphology or the environmental aspects of the species? I'm asking this because if you are going to realize utilization in the term of the Nagoya Protocol, for example, you will ask to realize research and development. This means that you will specifically analyze the genetic structure of the truffle. And this will lead us to provide you with a specific instrument. Otherwise, if you are going to go to Morocco, have a field work there, just seeing or analyze how this truffle behave in that context, you will probably need another instrument, that is the prior informed consent of the right holder of that field, or a sample collaborative research instrument to be able to conduct research.
No,
Your information, sorry, Claudia.
no. I would like to say that we will make analysis, both genetic and morphological, on the truffles. So
Perfectly.
on the truffle itself.
Okay, and sorry, but in order to be very practical, I'm using your interesting example to provide you with the useful information. So, as said by Claudia, you are going to realize analysis. Sorry, Claudia, are you going to realize analysis in situ there in Morocco, or you are going to move, if I understand correctly what Andrea said, to your facilities? There is to say here in Italy, for
Yes,
example.
we will bring samples from Morocco to Italy to complete the analysis. In Morocco, we can make first analysis, maybe morphological, but we will surely complete the analysis here in our laboratory in Italy.
Perfect. In this case, so as well said by Claudia, we will have a first part of the research that is taken in place in Morocco, but it's
Yes,
just a morphological study. And then
yes,
we are going to bring this truffle to Italy to have an insight, a very more thorough analysis on the genetic aspect of this truffle. How to do this? You will certainly, it is important that you have clear, very clear, the use of two instruments. Probably you will you met the so-called material transfer agreements. The material transfer agreement is a contract, a legal instrument that generally researchers and research institutions use to move something, in this case truffle, from one place to another. But as in this case, a simple material transfer agreement won't be sufficient because of the fact why because of the fact that we are going to realize research and development, and in any case utilization on the genetic aspects of the truffle. So we have necessary to face the rules of the CBD and the Nagoya Protocol.
Sabrina,
We
excuse me,
Yes.
Sabrina. This material will be likely brought from Moroccan personnel from the Moroccan university to Italy because they are going to be seconded in Italy. Okay, so
Okay. So
um,
not just you taking, going there and picking
no, no,
the
no,
but they are going.
because we already completed our secondment in Morocco, me and Beatrice. So it is
Okay.
likely that the researcher from Morocco, so they are here, so they can also uh, say what they are going to do. Uh,
Okay.
the, the first agreement was that researchers from Morocco would have brought materials from Morocco to Italy during their secondment. But
Okay.
they
So
can also say something about this.
okay.
Yeah, I was waiting for Sabrina to finish what she was uh,
No,
saying
no,
to,
it's
yeah,
okay.
to not.
It's for me important to know how who in you are going to are exchanging this material, because I'm going to be very useful for you in this sense. We are asked to give you the proper instruments for this moving. So it is very important what Claudia has said. She's saying, Sabrina, stop. We are not going to go there and picking the material, but the provider, in a certain sense, or the researchers from the provider institution are going to bring the truffle here in Italy. So this will lead us to talk about another instrument, and probably a simple, not very simple, collaborative agreement will be sufficient for you. So it is important that you give me, or give us, as a legal and ethical aspects about the details of this moving. So we will give you the proper instrument.
Yeah, Sabrina, if I can, Nisa probably has something to say about this because um, she's one of the researchers that will come to Italy. So please, Nisa. Your microphone is turned off.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I just noticed. So we'll be coming next June to Italy with my colleagues. We are interested in studying morphological, genetical aspects, and also the environmental context of truffles. Truffles. So certainly we will bring some specimens of Moroccan truffles and try to do the morphological genetic with the help of Claudia and Beatrice and the others to do these studies of genetical and morphological aspects. But certainly also try to study the environmental aspects, soil, water, etc. So certainly we will do the analysis there, but probably we will also have to pick some specimens to Morocco and complete the study in the other side. So
We will probably give us a very hard work to provide you with lots of templates and forms to complete. And I'm just joking, but this information are very useful for us, because in this case, probably Nisa, I will not meant to bother you with aspects, but I will anticipate that you will probably use different tools to move the truffle. And in the case that you are taking your own truffle from Morocco to Italy, in that case, in any case, you would be asked to have a permit about the possibility to move this truffle. There is a prior informed consent from the Morocco's institution, granting you the possibility to move this truffle. Why I'm saying this? The reason I'm saying this is that not all countries regulate these aspects in the same way. Sometimes certain countries establish different rules from researchers from abroad or its own researchers. So I kindly invite you, before coming here, and in any case, you please do not hesitate to contact us to have useful information. If you need, in this case, but I'm quite sure that you, in any case, need a permit to move your truffle. You cannot simply take the truffle from Morocco and bring them to Italy. Be sure that you are granting the permit to move this truffle. Why? The reason why I'm underlining many times this aspect that is actually the most tricky, that is to say, as access, is that unfortunately these rules could bring you before authorities for breaching certain rules concerning the trading, even the access. So please be aware on the specificities of accessing at the first stage. Then we will help you to the second aspect concerning utilization, but we need to be sure about how you access these resources. This is the case of Nizza from Morocco to Italy.
Mm.
What
Just to
about
add
the...
one thing, please, Sabrina, I'm sorry.
Yes.
At my knowledge, we are not aware if there is a law, specific law concerning exchange or moving. So we are working
Actually,
on trying. Yeah, you go. Go ahead.
Actually, if I can, if I can help you, use the link that I have shown in the slides, and in any case, I will provide it again to you. Actually, it is not a case that in preparing for this section, I have checked the legislation from Morocco. In the case of Morocco, there's a specific law legislation about the Nagoya Protocol. You and I, and anyone from the Intact Consortium can check whether its own country has already established a law. In the case of Morocco, I kindly invite you, Nisa, to check this law and whether in this law there's a different regulation about researcher. There is the national researcher, and the other researcher from abroad. And in this case, the second step that I invite you to take is to identify your national competent authority, whether you can bring this truffle simply having a permit from your institution. Otherwise, you might be asked to ask to an administrative authorities. Please do this in advance, in the sense if you are going to Italy and you are seconded in June, this operation will occur you to sometimes. So in advance, check this law, verify the kind of clauses for researchers, if there are any, because sometimes it is possible there's nothing. If there's nothing, possibly is better that we have possibility to have a consortium agreement in this sense. In any case, in the law, probably you will have the specificities about the competent authority, to which ask about the possibility to move that research. When you have clarified the aspect of access and you need to have certain permits, you are in a certain sense quite sure that you can move this. I'm telling quite sure because the receiving country, in this case Italy, we do not have a legislation concerning access and benefit sharing, but we are in Europe, and we have the European regulation. In this case, we have obligations and as users, and you are safe about this moving. So you can come in Italy and realize your activity in the Italian facilities. Then we will have a mutually agreed terms, that is to say, a simplified contract in which you and the Italian institution agree about the condition about the utilization, that is to say, how to realize research on the truffle that you have brought from Morocco. Is it clear?
Yeah, perfectly clear. Thank you.
Okay. The second aspect is the contrary. There is an Italian researcher coming to Morocco and taking the truffle. This is Claudia. Let's think that this situation it is not the situation in which your colleague from Morocco come and bring, but the case in which you go and take or for example Nizza come in Italy, takes the truffle and bring them to Morocco. Is actually the same situation. In this case, in the case of Nizza, coming here in Italy and taking some samples, it is necessary that Nizza is granting access to these resources. Of course, Nizza has the first question: who is going to grant access? How this access is granted? Is it possible for me to move truffle from Italy to Morocco? The first, even in this case, the first question is the more complicated. That is to say, who is the competent authority for granting access to the genetic resources? As I said before, Italy does not have yet a specific legislation about this aspect. Actually, the problem is more complicated because the competence could be of the regions, there is to say, not from Italy itself. But in any case, Nizza, we need to help Nizza taking this truffle from Italy to Morocco. So it depends, firstly, where Nizza is going to take this truffle. Nizza, sorry if I use you as an example, but are you going to take truffle from fields, or are you going to use collections, for example? Are you going to realize the field work on fields, so picking truffle from the field, looking this, analyze this, and then, or are you going to access to a collection from an institution that has already collected the material?
I think the optimal way is to take the truffle from the field, from their context, the environment.
Mm-hmm.
But
So
depending on the context available, if it's not possible, then we can use collections.
mm-hmm. So in the first case, you will realize access in situ. That's to say, in the place where truffle is grown. So in that case, you will need to know whether the right holder, there is to say, who is the authority who can give you access, has the power to give you the access to that field to take the truffle. Probably it would be necessary to have an administrative permit to access the field and to have access to that truffle. And I will show you the format to complete. In the second case, whether you, in the case in which you are going to access the truffle from a collection, probably the collection is called, is an intermediate subject. That's to say, the collection, the institution that have that controls the collection have already accessed the truffle in a proper way. This means that the provider, in that case, could be the institution that has control over the truffle. So in that case, you will complete the agreement specifying that you accessed the truffle from the collection that had the power to allow you to have access to the truffle. So basically, the second situation is a little bit better because of the fact that someone has already accessed the biological material, and whether the institution did it properly, legally, there's no problem from you to access the truffle and use it for utilization. Of course, you will need, in the same case, both in the first situation and the second situation, you will probably have the same necessity to subscribe a mutually agreed terms, that there is to say a contract in which you specify your research activities, your investigations. The mutually agreed terms, as well as prior informed consent, are fixed tools. But the more problematic, according to my opinion, is the prior informed consent, because it depends on the property over the truffle. Is it okay, or do you need further specification on this point? If I missed some aspects or points, please raise your hand and tell me, Sabrina, I completely missed some aspects. Tell me.
For now, it's fine. I'm trying to to understand everything. So
Do
if I
not.
have any question, I will.
That's probably today I'm giving you lots of information, but in any case, I will be more clear, showing you the forms. And in any case, before doing your activity, if you have any question, you can contact the Intact, the legal members of the Intact Consortium, in order to be aware that you are, in order to be sure that you are doing this aspect properly. Okay. So another aspect that I would like to focus on is okay, mutually agreed terms. We tell about this, and okay, now we can go to the forms and templates that we will probably need. Okay, I will share the first. Please let me know if you display this properly.
Yes,
Yes.
it's okay.
Oh, okay, this is the first template concerning the prior informed consent. In this document, you are asked to complete very few basics about the providers and the users of the truffle. The preamble of this instrument simply give you the background into which the prior informed consent, and basically this template is set. So in this preamble, you will have mentioned the International Convention, there is to say the CBD and the Nagoya Protocol, dealing with this aspect. Of course, pay attention to the fact that national authorities will have, as in the case of Morocco, other laws or rules in place, as I said before. I would like to specify the fact that there's a difference in the prior informed consent procedures. In this case, with respect to the prior informed consent in other, for example, biomedical research activity. In the biomedical research activities or other research activity involving human participants, prior informed consent simply serves to inform the research participants that they will be engaged in a research study. So the template for the prior informed consent simply asks, are you going to be engaged or to be involved in a research activity? The research participant simply say yes or not, or I don't know, for example, and it's just an informative tool. In the case of prior informed consent pursuant according to the Nagoya Protocol or the Convention on the Biological Diversity, the prior informed consent serves another function, and this function is to be legally compliant with the rules concerning the moving of the biological material. In this case, prior informed consent is a mandatory step that you are asked to take to move to exchange the material. And prior informed consent is linked to another contract, that is the mutually agreed terms. PIC, prior informed consent, and MAT, mutually agreed terms, are linked to give you the possibility to rent you fair compliant with the international, national, European regulation. Without these two instruments, you are not using biological material or genetic resources in a lawful way. So you will probably incur into liability compliance claims or responsibility breach. So consider this. You will need this template and the other template for the utilization. That's to say, to describe how you access and how you are going to use the biological material. Mutually agreed term as a contract is not the same of a material transfer agreement. The mutually agreed terms, which are linked to the prior informed consent, are contracts that you need to have to have utilization of the biological material. The material transfer agreement is a contract that you need to have to move the material from one country to another. So there's this very soft aspect that you need to be aware of. In any case, it is possible that the material transfer agreement includes both the prior informed consent and the mutually agreed terms. And in this case, you will have as annex to the material transfer agreement the prior informed consent template, the mutually agreed terms template. Both these two are necessary to use the material, and then the material transfer agreement to move the biological material from one country to another. This is the first step, the prior informed consent. You will be asked to complete this section in yellow. Informed consent form 4, and in this section you will asked to complete with the identified right holder. Taking our colleague from Morocco again as an example, you will insert here, for example, the subject that has the property over the fields, the custodians or the owners of the genetic resources in a repository, the institution having the control over the collections in the case that research activity are taken ex situ, or the intermediate subject that has already accessed genetic resources in a lawful way. That is to say, you are asking genetic resources to a subject that has already asked to the competent authority the requirements for using that research. These subjects are considered PIC provider. Then you will be asked to complete this section about the specificities of the research activity undertaken. In this case, it is sure that you are working as partner in the Intact project, but you are also asked to specify the kind of activity. For example, as said by Andrea and Claudia, specify the kind of analysis that you are going to realize over that kind of specimen of truffle. Then you will specify who is the principal investigator, in this case the user. The specification, you will have already completed this section about the Intact project. The purpose of the research, and in this case you are asked to take a step beyond the simple indication of the research, but why you are going that analysis. This aspect is important because of the fact probably at the beginning of your research you have in mind to access the truffle for a certain purpose. For example, to study the morphology of that truffle. But it is also possible that later in the research activity you change your intention. So the purpose of the analysis, and in this case, you are not just interested in study the morphological aspects of this truffle, but you are also interested in focusing on the aroma. This change of intention is not this changing of idea is not just a change of intention, and it is not simply a change of intention. It is also a change in the purpose of your research activity. So if you have established with the provider that your access was finalized just to the morphological aspect, according to the law of the institution controlling the collections, or according to the agreement that you had with the with the right holder of the field, you will probably will asked to negotiate another contract. So it is important that you have at least have in mind the kind of purpose of your research. From my point of view as a jurist, I advise you to complete this section with concise but also punctual indication. For example, if you cannot exclude the further analysis, please already insert this aspect in this point. This will simplify your work, and this will makes you safe from the necessity to renegotiate another PIC. The other aspect concern the procedures. Of course, you are asked to specify how the analysis is realized, and whether there are or not experiments, measurements, or any statistical, for example, studies, procedures um, uh, for your research. Basically, I advise you to insert in this aspect the methodology used. I know you are all very skilled researchers, so very experts in your field of work. So you will probably know better than me the kind of methodology that you will use. And even in this case, to recall Andrea, you are asked here to specify the kind of truffle in our case, the specific name of the truffle, and from whom the research was obtained for the research project. This is, for example, in the case of Niza. Niza is taking the truffle from Morocco. Or even in this case, it is important to add whether administrative permits are necessary or were already granted. Taking another time, Niza as an example. Niza is moving a truffle from Morocco. We are not, I'm, for example, not aware of the fact whether the truffle could trigger environmental dangers when introduced in the Italian field, in an Italian field, whether the acid of the soil or whether its temperature could affect the other in situ plants, or whether his aroma could affect the other environmental elements, whether its spores could affect other native plants. And in this case, the law of Morocco could, or the Italian law could ask for certain permits. For example, asking for phytosanitary requirements. If you are aware of these permits and there are already documents that you have about the specificities of the truffle that you are going to move, please insert that permits or that document here in this section of the PIC. And this is important. It is important also to complete the following section that about risks. If you have in mind any possible environmental risk or biosecurity dangers, you will be probably asked to also to complete this section concerning the procedures and measures that you are going to apply to minimize those risks. When the other section is about the benefits. In this section, you are asked to anticipate the kind of benefits that will be achieved from the research on the truffle. And of course, these benefits would be shared among the partners of the Intact Consortium. This you will have to simplify your knowledge about the benefits. You will find in the notes of these templates the expected benefits that are included in the international conventions, basically the Nagoya Protocol. Just to give you an example of the many benefits arising from the utilization. Of course, the information about the research activity, the purpose of the research activity, and the test, equipments, strategies are strictly confidential. There is to say that this information won't be disclosed behind or in settings that are different from the one of the research activity. And of course, the time lapse of these disclosures are linked to the other instruments that I've said before, the material transfer agreement. In the case that the material is moved from one country to another, and probably in the case of NIDSA, we will have the prior informed consent that NIDSA will have from the provider, the mutually agreed terms for allowing NIDSA to use the material, and the material transfer agreement to allow NIDSA to move the truffle from Italy to Morocco. These are the contact information, and of course the specificity about the voluntary participation in the Intact project and in all activities allied. Basically, this clause is the same of that you will have in the case in which you are involved in biomedical research activity. And there's the statement in which you specify that you have understood and that's everything clear about the informed consent sheet. So, is it all clear? Do you have any question? I will go very very quickly to the mutually agreed terms, and then we will finish with a very round table of for questions, if you agree. Okay, I go on with the mutually agreed terms. Once you have the informed consent from the provider, you and the provider agree how to use the resources, the biological sample or its genetic resources. In this case, it is probably longer than the previous one, but in its content, this contract is easier because because of the fact that when you approach to mutually agreed terms, you have basically stepped beyond all the possible obstacles in accessing or having permits for obtaining that research. So in this contract, you are simply asked to indicate that the agreement is made between sorry, you will probably need, is it okay for you in this, probably is more readable in this sense, in this way. You have to specify that this agreement is made between, again, the provider, the same that had given you the prior informed consent, and the recipient, there's to say, the subject that is going to realize research activity on that on that research on biological sample. And of course, it is necessary that you list, also insert the head researcher with full contacts. Both the provider and the recipients are considered parties. This is a term from the legal environment. Even in this case, you will have the preamble setting the background into which your research activities are located. And the first section that you are asked to complete is the objective. In this case, you are asked to specify whether, even in this case, there are permits, or whether the recipients, that's to say the user, have obtained permits, for example, those permits that we have mentioned before about biosafety requirements, whether the provider is satisfied that these permits will be obtained in due course. Why the reason for this? That seems to be in contrast with what I have said before. Because sometimes the bureaucratic machine would come later, you starting the research activity. This clause serves to be clear that the providing accepts that you work on the truffle before that the bureaucratic permits are granted, because there's an urgency for you to start your activity now, immediately. But the provider, but you need to have the consent, the agreement with the provider. Otherwise, you will miss that permit that stop your research activity. You will also find the definitions, but these are just a very indicative terminology. And in any case, we can move this aspect to an attachment or annex, not to be too complex in this format. And you need to specify the way the way of how research is realized, the involvement of local researchers, for example, the kind of activities such as education and training, if some equipments are necessary, and all other specificities concerning the procedures while using truffle. You will find in this tab, in these templates, even alternatives to shape this contract with your necessities. So in case in which a certain clause does not match your situation, you are simply asked not to complete or to step beyond that alternative. Please do not erase or delete the alternative, because because you can modify a template that probably, or an alternative that probably will be useful for another researcher. You simply complete what you need and step beyond. Never delete parts or sections. Access, again, you are asked again to specify the sample accessed, and to provide probably, if you need to have further specificities of the truffle, you can add an annex specifying the specimens or the characteristic of the truffle. Even in this case, we have alternative. In the case of movement, even if the mutually agreed terms are not intended to the moving, the transfer, because of the fact that this contract is used to utilization, to specify utilization, you are asked to imagine whether the accessed genetic resources will bring abroad, and where. You are also asked to complete with very simple, concise, and not many words the utilization. Of course, we are in a setting in which we are not using genetic resources for commercial purposes. Research activities are considered at this stage non-commercial purposes. In the case you have commercial intentions, this will change not just the legal instruments, but also the purpose of your research. So you will probably use a different contract for this. Transfer of material and knowledge to third parties and collaborators, because this section serves to indicate whether the material is not just transferred between the members of the consortium, but stakeholders from third countries. And even in this case, you are asked to simply complete the parts in branches. Then record keeping and reporting, as it is a research activity and the moving is meant for research and development, you are always asked to record the movement and the handling and the storage of the truffle. For example, in the case of Niza, again, she will specify here the period of the storage of the truffle, when it was given for the transfer, and the designated authority or person that is in charge of the storage or the collection, for example, when the truffle enters Morocco. The benefit sharing, again, are specified has basically the same way of the PIC. But there's a further specification concerning publication. It is a very best practice. Then when a publication concern a genetic researcher, genetic research, the researchers that realize the publication also include the providers in the acknowledgement, and specify the fact that the genetic research was accessed for research purpose and from that country. This is just, as I said, a way to share benefits, and we are not just moving materials, but we are sharing material for knowledge and for improving targets and environmental targets and research objectives. As I said before, it is possible that you joined a publication and you indicate the origin. Publication of research and development results are again in the perspective of benefit sharing. And permitted commercialization. As I said before, it is possible that that your research is linked to commercial activity. This is not the case, I guess, of Intact. But in any case, whether later in the research this borderline is crossed, you need a permit for the commercialization. And again, this is the case of sharing the benefits in this case. But as I said, the entire clause of paragraph concerning commercial benefits can be deleted in the case that your research is just for research and development results and purposes. You will have here alternatives, and again, they could be deleted. And the laws that probably are expected to be respected. And as I said before, the fact that we are moving is not just a physical movement, but a fair movement of material, and we have responsibilities. And you will have in these two clauses the share of responsibility between the recipients and the provider. Time and termination of the agreement is a fixed clause to indicate the validity of the agreement. And in case of dispute resolution, we guess we will not have dispute regulation claims or litigation about the moving, because all that I have said is clear and we will act properly. And okay, we have our mutually agreed terms. In the case, as in the case of of NISA, the material is also transferred from a country to another, we will have the material transfer agreement. That basically I simply introduce these aspects and will not share with you the model, but just because of the fact that will be a contentor of the other two. The material transfer agreement indicates the parties and includes the prior informed consent and the mutually agreed terms, and this we will have adding clauses concerning the transfer, and parties established whether this transfer from one country to another implies the changing of property or not over that research, or biological materials. I'm fine. I have finished my presentation. Do you have any question about Daniele? I have finished. Is there anyone that have questions?
Yeah,
I
I
guess
guess
now.
no one need any clarification. You were very clear, and I want to thank you.
No,
I just want to
I guess I
please,
give
please.
too many information and they are all confused about it. But in any case, you will have our support, and in order to be very ready to be seconded and to bring your biological materials from one country to another.
Exactly. I only want to add that. Oh, Carlos, please. Yeah.
No, I was just going to say just about the same thing. It's a lot of information. I really appreciate you putting it all together. It really helps. But at the same time, it's a lot of information to
Yeah,
integrate. So I am afraid I may have to bother you at some point with some details, or when I have a chance to go through the documents myself, But
okay.
thank you.
Please do not hesitate to contact us for any clarifications, and we really appreciate further details about the kind of material. If you provide us with the proper information, we will support you better. This
Thank
is
you.
the basic idea that we are the scope of our section today. Not just, there are very lots of information today, it's true, but the basics idea is that if you give us information, we can help you. Otherwise, you are just confused about this moving.
Thank you so much.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. I just want to add a few words, because as you, as a researcher, know when it's necessary to transfer biological materials, and in that case, we will provide you all the templates with an email. And we will upload it also in our website. So if you need it, you can easily find it. But when you are going to transfer biological materials for a secondment or anyway within the intact project, please, you can try to fill the templates by yourself, but if you need it, you can contact us. And for us, I mean both the coordination and work package 6. So we can help you and we can give you all the support needed, because Sabrina was very clear from maybe for people that is a lawyer, but I understand that there is a lot of information. So don't worry, we are here to support you, and if you have any question or other issues related to this aspect, you can simply contact us without any problem.
I do have a quick question. I apologize for being late to the meeting. I had a previous one that dragged too long. Maybe you said this at the beginning, I missed it. But within the EU, is all this protocol necessary or not?
Well, thank you for this question. Actually, it is a very important aspect, as we are Italy, but also other states, as Spain, France, are member states of the EU. And despite the fact that each country has its own legislation, we we are asked, it is mandatory to follow the rules of the EU regulation applying the Nagoya Protocol. And in this regulation, even though we are in the EU, we have to guarantee the same aspects of the Nagoya Protocol. That's to say, the prior informed consent and the material and the mutually agreed terms. So if in the case that transfers are from one country outside Europe to a country in Europe, we need to follow the information that I have provided. In the case that we are exchanging material between EU state members, we have also to follow the EU regulation. So paradoxically, we have other and further obligations to be compliant. For example, the case in which the resources are also collected in specific collections listed by another regulation from the EU. So even in this case, it is important to exactly specify who the provider is and who the user is, because in this case we have also this other regulation.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you for the question. It is actually a very crucial point. I simply missed to specify because it was another information, and today I will give you just the basics. But in any case, if there are more specific situations, please contact us and we will try to solve the specific situation in which researchers are involved.
Okay. So if someone else has something to ask or to add?
I just want to add something, please, since we have our second man, which is very soon. So if I got it, the first thing for us to do is to look for the authority who is in charge of giving us the permit to transport the
Perfect, Anita.
Okay. And then get in touch with you to fill in all the forms and to prepare everything before coming. Okay.
Okay.
It was clear.
But
A lot of information.
But in any case, we will provide these templates in advance, not just tomorrow or the next week, but in any case, in advance before your secondment. And you will have time to verify whether if I said correctly something, and please tell me whether if I were incorrect, and then you can specify on this aspect. But Nisa, look at that link, and in this case, Daniele probably will share this afternoon already the PowerPoint presentation. In which Nisa will find the link for checking the Her National Authority. This will help already NINSA for this first checking pre-access requirement.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. You're welcome.
Okay, so thank you very much. I would like only to ask you to switch on all of your camera, if it's possible, so I can take a screen of the meeting, yeah, of the workshops, and upload it in the in the social of the project. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Daniel.
Wait, yeah.
Thank
Okay.
you. Thank you, Sabrina.
You're welcome. It was a pleasure.
Okay.
It was a
Bye,
pleasure.
Domizia.
See you soon.
Bye.
Bye.
Domicia, bonjour.
Thank you.
Thank you, Daniele.
Hola,
Bye.
Thank
Thank
you.
you. Bye.
Bye bye. Au revoir.
Bye bye.
Bye bye.
Thank you. Grazie Sabrina.
Thank you. Bye. I lost my connection at the end.